Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to start by thanking you all for coming here today to celebrate with us on Emily and Alex's wedding day. I know a lot of you have travelled a long way to join us, and we have guests here from the USA, the UAE, Brazil, and even Yorkshire. But thank you all for making this a very special day. I'd also like to thank Hurricane Bertha for pausing in mid-Atlantic to give us this weather window that we can all enjoy today. Indeed, the 9th of August has been a very memorable day in the past. Edward VII was crowned king in 1902 following the death of his mother Victoria. The US dropped the second atomic bomb on Nagasaki in 1945. Richard Nixon resigned as President of the USA following Watergate. And now, on this day in 2014, Emily and Alex walked down the aisle at Worth Church to begin their married life together. Worth Church has always had a special place in our family's hearts. I was christened there shortly after it was built, I hear you also. Suzanne and I were married there. Emily was christened there. And now Alex and Emily have chosen Worth for their wedding ceremony. I know Emily wouldn't have considered it to be anywhere else. In 1985, our lives changed when Mimi came into this world. And from the very start, she has been a true joy. Well, I think except for the labour part in hospital, I think she's having. Emily has always made us proud of whatever she has achieved, from her school reports to her Gold Duke of Edinburgh's Award, to her university degree, and now her career as a very dedicated primary school teacher. I have a couple of extracts from her secondary school report in spring '98, becoming a teenager, which were a sign of things to come. Maths. Mr. Cobbett. Over-exuberance can accompany her responses which distracts others. Time to calm down, Emily. History, Mrs. Belden. She works well, but sometimes becomes a little overexcited. And from her form teacher, Mrs. Rogers. Emily is a lively member of the form and contributes well in class. She must, however, act on the advice of some of her teachers and channel her energies into working and not chatting. I think all of Emily's friends who are here today from her school and university days will recognise these traits, but that is what makes Emily Emily, and we all love her for it. However, I have a small gift for Alex that will help with a selective hearing technique that we husbands have to develop over the years. Another of Emily's traits is her meticulous planning skills with copious use of lists and spreadsheets. Indeed, we can all be thankful for this, as she has worked very hard on making this a memorable day and has taken the pressure off Suzanne and me. Anyway, my proudest moment of all was walking down the aisle at Worth Church today with my beautiful daughter at my side. Excuse me. I have known Alex now for about 5 years, and from the start we both have felt that Emily has chosen Mr. Right. And I hope Joy and Terry think that Alex has chosen Mrs. Right. She has been made very welcome into the Deadman family. They say that daughters marry the likeness of their father. Well, our careers have both been with aircraft avionics. He's tall and good looking. Okay. The only issue that my family had with Alex is that he is a Liverpool supporter.
Nothing wrong with that.
But I'm sure we can all overlook this failing. Emily and Alex have a lovely home in Crawley Down, which they have worked very hard on. And it was during the refurbishment there that my belief that Alex was the right man was confirmed. No, not that he is a DIY enthusiast, but that he plucked up the courage to ask me for Emily's hand in marriage just before their holiday in Iceland, where he planned to propose to her. I was absolutely delighted. Anyway, I won't embarrass Alex anymore. I will let the best man Simon do that.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are only two lasting bequests that parents can hope to give their children. One of these is roots, and the other is wings. I know Emily and Alex are both proud of their strong family roots, and we all hope that you enjoy a long and happy life together wherever your wings may take you. Remember, Emily, in the words of your childhood hero Peter Pan, second star on the right and straight on till morning. Please stand, raise your glasses, and drink a toast to the health and happiness of Emily and Alex.
Thank you, Kevin, for the kind words. So as you'll probably know, public speaking and being centre of attention are two of my least favourite things. So it's a bit of a shame that the groom has to give the speech. So being centre of attention and public speaking has to be two of them who's very favourite. So on behalf of my wife and I, I'd like to thank you all very much for coming and sharing our special day. As Trev said, a lot of people have made a lot of effort to be here, and we really appreciate it, so thank you. We would also like to remember those who can't be with us today, so would you please be upstanding for a toast. To absent friends and family. So we have a number of people we need to thank today, but before I do that, I've been to quite a few weddings now, and one of the things I've noticed is that the groom will often mention a nice speech, a nice little story during the speech. For example, the romantic way in which the couple met. Unfortunately, that story is not at all romantic. For those of you who don't know, we met in Liquid Envy in Crawley. There it is. You may recognise it. So we met in Liquid Envy over a shot of tequila, and we couldn't remember what each other looked like the following day. So a better story is probably the one of how we got engaged in Iceland. So contrary to what Iris, Emily's nan over there, thought, I didn't pick out a nice spot next to the prawn rings and propose to Emily. Although I could have saved myself a lot of time, money and effort if I had done that. So I'd actually thought long and hard about how I should propose. I decided nothing could be more romantic than proposing under the Northern Lights. I did some research into it. We were meant to be in a solar maximum, which meant the Northern Lights were meant to be more likely to appear. And Iceland is one of the best places in the world to see them. So I arranged a holiday in Iceland, which included a few nights at a hotel, see over there, which is meant to be an excellent location to see the Northern Lights. They are so proud of this fact that they even named the hotel after them. So here we are at the Northern Light Inn. One of the services this hotel offers is to phone your room during the night to wake you up to inform you that the Northern Lights have made an appearance. just after midnight, we got that phone call that the Northern Lights were out. At this point, I was obviously very excited because my plan was coming together nicely. I put the engagement ring in my pocket and we went outside. And as you can see, the hotel is not at all wrong. This is an incredible location to see the Northern Lights. There's another picture there, as I'm sure you'll agree, it's pretty spectacular. So, unfortunately, these photos are actually taken from their website. You may also notice the caption under the photo which says, "A guest enjoying an rural occasion her boyfriend proposed that night." You may also notice the woman in the photo is not Emily. Here are a few of the photos that I took that night. That's the next one. Not quite as good. This is partly because my camera and photography skills were not really up to the task, but mainly because the Northern Lights were only very faintly visible. I was planning to take advantage still and propose to Emily. However, what I hadn't taken into account was the fact that we were not the only ones the hotel had woken up to be told the Northern Lights were out. The result was that we were joined outside in the car park by just about every other guest in the hotel. At this point, I decided that standing in the car park in the cold, surrounded by about 30 people looking up at what looked like glorified clouds, was not the romantic proposal I had been thinking of. So if we go back to the photo taken by the guy whose proposal did go to plan, you will see in the corner my plan B. This is a place called the Blue Lagoon. This is basically a geothermal spa in the middle of some lava fields, which are full of silicate minerals causing the distinctive blue colour. This distinctive blue has formed the colour theme for today, you may have noticed. We spent the next day relaxing at the Blue Lagoon there. Luckily, I had booked a couple of hours in the VIP Executive Lounge, which by pure fortune, we had completely to ourselves for an hour. I made the most of this opportunity, and luckily for me, Emily made me the happiest man in the world and said yes. We'd also like to thank Rachel for making the cupcakes. Thank you for bringing my wedding ring all the way from Dubai, and good work with the haggling on that one. I'd also like to thank my grandparents for all their help, support and advice that they've given us for today. I'd also like to thank Iris for allowing me to get this far through my speech without heckling me. Ask Andrew about it.
Still time.
Still time. Also thank you, David, for your reading in the church today. That was brilliant. Big thank you to our nephew Oliver, who has done outside, but I'm sure you'll agree he looks much cooler in the suits than all of us lot. And he's been pretty well behaved, so thank you, Oliver. Next we'd like to thank the bridesmaids, Lucy, Sinead, Jen, Jane and Rachel. Don't they all look beautiful today? Beautiful. Thanks for organising what sounded like a great end-do for Emily, and thanks for being such good friends to Emily over the years. So would you please be upstanding and join me in a toast? To the bridesmaids. We'd also like to thank the ushers for their help today. Alex, Gav, Yandy, Darren and Merrick. I feel like I should have given you more jobs to do. You have been brilliant, so thanks a lot for that. I'd also like to thank Simon, my best man, for organising an excellent stag do up in Liverpool a few weeks back. I'm sure everyone who went would agree it was a great weekend. Although, just don't mention horse number 9 to Andrew. It's not easy trying to organise 20 drunken blokes at the same time, so thanks for that. And also, thanks for being such a good friend over the years, all the way back to primary school. I may withdraw that statement if you stitch me up too much. Anyway, would you please be upstanding again and raise the glass? the ushers and best man. Stand and check. Firstly, on behalf of both of us, I'd like to thank you so much for everything you've done to make today possible. All of this quite literally would not have happened without your help, so we'll be eternally grateful for that. On a personal level, I'd like to thank you for making me feel so welcome in your family right from the very start, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. I definitely feel lucky to be someone who's married and doesn't have anything to complain about regarding the in-laws. Although, any of you could have been a Liverpool fan, Trevor, it would have been perfect. Mum and Dad, well, I have a lot to thank you for. Without you, I definitely wouldn't be here today. Thank you for everything you've helped us with today to make today possible. I really could stand here all day with the things I need to thank you for, but I'm sure Kat would agree. When I say we had a wonderful childhood and we could not have asked for better parents. So would you please be upstanding, raise your glass. To wonderful parents.
Sorry, Darren. Sorry,
Rolling back cash.
Look at that slug. The horn in his pocket. Look at this.
The last, but by no means least, this beautiful lady Bixby. Mrs. Bowden. So, sorry about inflicting that name on you. I know it's not great, but I've managed to survive 32 years with that name, so I'm sure you'll cope. I know the idea of a double-barrelled surname was mentioned, but I'm afraid Dead Man's Staff. I'm sure everyone would agree you look incredible today. Absolutely. When I saw you at the church, I can honestly say I've never seen a more beautiful sight in my life. Okay, so you're kind, caring, generous, smart, patient, incredibly organised. You teach me between left and right. Out my pockets. But more than all that, you're my best friend. I feel so lucky to have found someone who I enjoy sharing my life with so much, and I cannot wait to spend the rest of my life with you. So do please be upstanding one last time. To Emily. So I'll now hand you over to Simon. I don't think I've ever heard him say a bad word about anyone. I don't think he's actually capable of I might be still talking. He's not capable of saying a bad word about anyone, so if he says anything bad now, he's clearly lying. Have a good evening, everyone.
Good afternoon all. My name is Simon Hayton and I have the pleasure of being best man to Mr. Alex Benjamin Charles Deadly. Zander to his family, or simply Dead to his friends. It's an absolute honour to be here in this capacity. However, as I've lived up north for about the last 15 years, apologies to the accent by the way if it's sneaking in, I was slightly concerned about the lack of recent material for this speech. I therefore did what is customary these days. I googled and Facebook stalked. To my delight, Alex has actually done quite a lot and has been pretty busy in my absence. So this speech delves into Alex's past, his present and future. And to anyone partaking in the sweepstake on the length of speeches, I should be done in about 15 minutes. And also, this isn't written down. I just wanted to thank the Reverend Mr. Cannonball earlier for such a funny delivery. If I'm half as good as him, then I think I've achieved something. Okay, so how did we meet all these years ago? Believe it or not, I'm 2 weeks older than Alex. And I've known him for about 25 years now, which is a pretty scary thought, as it confirms we're both the wrong side of 30, and the need to carry photo ID is a thing of the past. We met at Turners Hill Primary School all those years ago, when I, the incoming northerner, got introduced to all these funny-sounding people. I managed to wedge myself into an established friendship between Alex and another lad just sat over there called Jamie. Sorry, I do have a picture of these things, and you're going to have to kind of twist your neck. Yeah, please carry on looking that way, it's no problem. Yeah, we basically formed a trio that are clearly still good friends to this day, as are all our parents. There are about 15 of us in our entire year at Turners Hill School. It's only a small school, and half of which were lads. And that meant that we were pretty much a shoo-in for the school football team. There we are now. The triangle. Football's all about triangles. So I'm told. Bad haircut, sorry. We'll get onto that in a minute. Okay. Anyway, in short, it was pretty much inevitable that we'd be friends. However, all this may have never actually happened, as unbeknown to me at the time, because I was 8, the Deadmans were looking to move house at the same time as we were looking to move down south. And apparently they were seriously considering what would become my family home in Turners Hill. Yep. Anyway, for one reason or another, we moved in, and the rest, as they say, is history. Okay, so after primary school, we went on to secondary school, as you do, where our trio was unfortunately carved apart, in that me and Alex followed the masses to Imborne. And Jamie over there went to the dark side and opted for Sackville. See how that turned out. Anyway, some great times were had at Imborne, and a tight group of friends was formed, the bulk of which are here today also. And as part of my initial Facebook stalking exercise, it was great to track the photos through the years and see how the bulk of this group are still close to this day. I feel a special mention must go out to Mr. Yandy Bailey and his wife Polly here, who have travelled obviously from Brazil to be with us today. Strangely though, the main lasting memory I have of Alex through these school years has to be his hair. For quite a shy and straight down the line lad, he always had the latest cuts and styles. I'll refer you to the slide. If you can take a second just to please adjust your eyes. I should have probably cropped Mr. Alex Smith out of this one, but I thought that was valid. Sorry, apologies for that. Anyway, so Alex in the background obviously sporting the highlighted curtains, which were quite popular in celebrity circles back in the 90s, with examples including, oh no, I'll spoil it. Anyway, Mr. David Beckham, Ben from A1. This might be new to some in the audience, but Mr. Google told me that, and I believed him. Okay, Joy was also a keen shopper, and although he would never admit it, I'm pretty sure she would fit Alex out with all the latest designer brands. Both hair and clothes are captured well in what was the pinnacle of our time at Imborne, the sixth form prom. Pinnacle. This took place on a boat on the Thames, which was probably a terrible idea in hindsight. And many in our group chose to wear kilts, dinner jackets or smart suits. But not to be outdone, I think you can probably work out what's coming. Alex opted for a magician's outfit. That ensemble consisted of a velvet jacket and matching bow tie. They say that fashion goes in cycles, but I've yet to see another example of this in 15 years. But I can't see one here today either, so that's encouraging. Okay, so next milestone, Magaluf. Apologies for the photo, but that was a height of technology at the time. This was our proper first lads' holiday abroad, and marked our transition between school and university, where we all went our separate ways. This is a rite of passage for many a young adolescent, and you may have seen the TV shows that follow groups of testosterone-fueled lads to Europe's darkest corners for 2 weeks of drinking, partying and womanising. It's fair to say that our holiday didn't quite go that way, in that we basically starred in our own version of the In-Betweeners movie 15 years before its time. Despite what this grainy picture would suggest, I think the closest anyone got to speaking to a member of the opposite sex was ordering drinks from the bar. The sad truth is that most of the girls we did actually talk to, and those pictured there, are actually sat in this room today. In that we pretty much followed them abroad and gatecrashed their holiday. It does get worse in that some of the lads in our group were actually going out with girls in that group, which is an absolute no for a lads' holiday. It's fair to say that we went there as boys, we came back as boys with sunburn. Alright, so next slide. Winding on to 2014, which to me seems like yesterday. The trio of Alex, Jamie and I were reunited for the European Championships in Portugal after we'd all finished up at uni. And I think it's fair we still talk about this impromptu break today, and I would recommend to anyone to follow England abroad with football. We spent about 10 days on the Algarve and watched 3 games in that time, including seeing the White Pele come of age and score a brace against Croatia. That was the fan's name for Wayne Rooney, by the way, not you, Alex Smith. A couple of points I'd like to raise on this holiday. Number one, when we arrived we couldn't find a key for the apartment that we had booked. So we ended up staying at the next door apartment, having found a key hidden under the doormat. It was strange in that there were pictures of like a scary German family all over the walls. And it did feel quite lived in, so we were sort of half expecting people to return at any time. A bit like a version of the Three Bears. But thankfully they never did. The second point, the night before we were due to watch England versus Portugal in the quarter-final, we went out for a bite to eat in the local town. As I was driving the long drive to Lisbon the following day, I decided to call it a night and left the other two to it. I was fast asleep, and the next thing I recall was waking up to a floating feeling and seeing the room moving, which is strange because I hadn't been drinking. It took me a minute to realise that my good friends Alex and Jamie were trying to carry me outside in my bed through the patio doors, either to drown me in the pool or leave me to get eaten by mosquitoes. Thanks guys. Anyway, Alex got his comeuppance the next day, as what should have been about a 2-hour drive to Lisbon took more like 4, as I had to pull over every 15 minutes to allow Alex to throw up at the roadside. And even worse at service stations, but we won't go into that after dinner. We finally arrived in Lisbon, and he still wasn't right, so I had to leave him in the car with the window slightly open, a bit like a dog to sleep it off. But miraculously he did manage to piece himself together and drag his carcass to the stadium to watch England lose, and witness one of his earlier hair idols, David Beckham in this case, blast a penalty a mile over our heads. Just refer yourself to the screen again. And it was only after I got home and developed the photos, yes, we developed them in that era, I found out the evidence of their big night and this cocktail of cocktails. It's true that they say you should never mix your mixed drinks. It gets worse. Alright. Okay, I just wanted to sort of rewind and break the chronological trend of this to some earlier moments. Obviously I wasn't around back then, so I quizzed Joy and Terry here about things they thought worthy of a mention. They kindly sent me a list, quite a long list. And for no particular reason, my attention was immediately drawn to point 3, and I quote, "He used to ride Sophie like a horse." The long-suffering, good-natured Oggy. What on earth? Anyway, it was all fine. It turns out that Sophie was actually an Afghan hound that was a family dog. And Alex couldn't pronounce doggy earlier in his youth. This exercise also uncovered that as a young boy, Alex used to shout at road signs, had a tendency to wear pink clothes to copycat, and did and still does apparently have an obsession with waterfalls, I'm told. Which is nice. Did you spend them on your honeymoon? Okay. Okay, so zooming forward again in time to talk a little bit about Alex's love life. It shouldn't take too long. All I can say is that it was a very, very frustrating thing as a witness, to witness as an observer, as all the pieces were there for Alex to be a prolific ladies' man. The height, the boyish good looks, the questionable hair, he could have been a stallion. Many a time the ladies would approach him for a chat, or in some cases even to offer to buy him drinks, only for him to politely decline and get back to the friends in the main group. There was one, however, one that captured Alex's heart from an early age. And I must commend Emily's character as she allowed this person to come today and sit among us. Sorry. Part of me was half expecting this person to say something in the church followed by an EastEnders style drum roll. That person is Simon Merrick. These two couldn't bear to break up after sixth form, so went to study the same course at the same university in Brighton together. Things weren't going well, and they showed maturity in their relationship and relocated to Canterbury to finish their studies together. They also worked at the same company, designing cockpits for many years together. Even when they finally broke up, they couldn't bear to be too far apart and ended up living down the same corridor as each other in an apartment block in Three Bridges. Truly inseparable, I think. I'll show us today. He's close to the top table anyway. Nearly done. Alright, keep going. Sorry. What are we doing?
2.5 minutes
My
more.
cup. Okay, before I wrap up, I wanted to mention the stag do, just draw your attention to the slide. As you may be able to tell from my accent, which is in and out, I haven't lived around here for quite some time now, and myself and Alex haven't seen anywhere near as much of each other as we should have. Therefore, I was relying on the stag do to provide some gold on Deadman. Terry Deadman, that is. Find me later if interested for more on this, and you could enjoy. Anyway, we had a cracking couple of nights in Liverpool, which culminated in us getting dressed up as World Cup legends to celebrate the World Cup. I'd said at the time that I would give out some awards for Best Dressed Legend, but forgot to do this at the time. So, in this Oscars-type scenario we find ourselves in, I thought it appropriate to do so now. Therefore, I have the pleasure of announcing the nominees for the 2014 Best Dressed World Cup Legend are, if you can all obviously watch the screen, Pierluigi Collina, Ruud Gullit and Frank Rijkaard's love child, Kevin Scousebrow Keegan, that's me by the way, and finally Mr. Carlos Valderrama. Apparently he's not even in the room. Alright, that's going to crash the rest of the speech. I did actually have an award for the winner.
He's not here.
Matt, you won an award!
While we're waiting, apologies for those who didn't make the cut, particularly Rob Afonso or Dancing Roger Miller, as we refer to him, who even had the foresight to invent his own corner flag and bring it. Is he on his way?
I did. Still
I'll get his prize on.
Here he comes, here he goes. Do a big cheer when he comes in.
I'm still closest currently.
You missed the best bit. You are the 2014 Best Dressed World Cup Legend. I will promise you that I do hope to be seen when we're out later. Out. He actually lost his wig in Liverpool. That was the original one. Well, I'm going to say it is.
Brilliant.
Okay, so that brings me to the sentimental wrap-up. So traditional best man speeches. I'll get the picture of Valderrama's done, that's good. In the lead up to the wedding, I asked Alex and Emily a set of the same 10 or so questions. The usual stuff: how did you meet? Where did you go on your first date? Most irritating habit, etc. I also asked them where they thought they would be in 5 years. Both replied still together, which is a good start for 10. And both said that they would like to be settled in their new house in Crawley Down. Not perhaps the rock and roll answer I was initially after, but that got me thinking that actually this is what it's all about. It shows to me that after a chance drunken encounter in an average nightclub, these two have carved out a life together that they are really happy with and willing to commit themselves to. That said, Alex, I feel I have a duty to tell you that Emily also added she expected to have 3 kids by then. That doesn't give you a very good assumption. Plus, as you're married now, you're very little saying the matter. Only joking potential grandparents, she actually said 4. Anyway, Alex, I just wanted to say thanks again for choosing me as your best man. It's been an absolute honour. You're one of my oldest friends, and that's something that will never change. When my mum and Chris followed me back up north, I felt initially, everyone's on quiet. I felt initially that I'd lost my base in the south, but I was wrong, as the Devons have always put me up and made me feel welcome. So I just wanted to say a quick thank you to Joanne Terry as well. And lastly, Emily, I just wanted to tell you, as if you don't already know, that you're getting a genuine, kind and loyal family man who will look after you. One of the lads on the stag do actually described Alex as a gentleman, which I think just about sums him up. Okay, well, thanks very much for your time. I'm not quite sure how much time that was.
6 minutes too long, mate. Yeah, 6 minutes too long.
Carry on. But before we move on to the business end of the day's proceedings, my last duty as best man is to ask you all to raise your glasses in toast to the happy couple. So please, if you could be all upstanding, to Emily and Alex, the bride and groom.